This is your Classical Break, your daily dose of classical music. I'm Tyler Alderson, and today we're finishing up with Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony. We'll be listening to the third and fourth movements today. Mendelssohn was easily inspired by everything he saw and heard in Italy, and he put the finishing touches to this symphony just a couple years after his trip. At the invitation of the London Philharmonic Society, he conducted the premiere in London at a concert that included pieces by Mozart, Haydn, and Rossini. The show was a rousing success, and Mendelssohn wrote that people were saying it was the best concert the Society had ever put on. And even among those pieces by the great masters, Mendelssohn's new symphony shined. One glowing review announced that it would, quote, endure for the ages, and Mendelssohn's popularity in Britain, already pretty high after his previous visit, it skyrocketed. But one common trait among great artists of any stripe is that they're never satisfied, and Mendelssohn was certainly no different. Despite the adoring audiences and rave reviews, he wasn't sold on the music that he had written. He withheld it from publication for the rest of his life, and spent a good bit of time revisiting and revising it. What's more, because he left the score in London, he had to reconstruct most of it from memory. And even though he said it was the jolliest piece he ever wrote, it probably also caused more frustration and heartache than anything he'd done as well. His friends were often baffled by the changes that he made. He sent some of his revisions, including a wholesale change to the opening melody, to his sister, who replied that she had liked it just the way it was. Another friend wrote that he was, quote, perplexed and dumbfounded by what Mendelssohn was doing to his already wildly successful symphony. There doesn't seem to be an overriding reason beyond perfectionism as to why he felt the need to tinker with it for so long, but whatever the reason, he felt very strongly that he just wasn't finished yet. So it was only in 1851, 18 years after the first premiere and 4 years after Mendelssohn's death, that this was first published. Even though it was such a hit in London, So it was only in 1851, 18 years after the first premiere and 4 years after Mendelssohn's death, that this was first published. And even though it was such a hit in London, no one but the audiences that saw those initial concerts had heard or even heard of the symphony. And in one final irony, the published version was not the one that Mendelssohn had labored over for more than a decade. It was that original version, written relatively quickly and premiered to great fanfare. Like the first two movements, there's a certain balance to the third and fourth ones. The third is a graceful minuet flowing along at a walking pace. In many ways, this is the least Italian movement since it's based more on the standard German minuet sounds, although filtered through Mendelssohn's unique voice. The finale, on the other hand, is very clearly based in the frenetic carnivals Mendelssohn witnessed in Rome and elsewhere. The passionate feasts and holy celebrations of the staunchly Catholic country were very new to the young man from a much more staid region of Northern Europe, and he recreates the excitement in the fourth movement. One musicologist has noted the incredible demands on the woodwind players in particular, saying, quote, if any of them have survived the first movement, this one is sure to finish them off. Let's hope the winds of the Musopen Symphony are up to the task. Here they are with the third and fourth movements of Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony. talked a lot about balance, and you can hear it here. Again, there is a major movement followed by a minor movement, but this time the major movement is a little more mellow. The minor movement is full of energy, as opposed to the way that this symphony started. Thanks to the Musopen Symphony for putting that up on musopen.org. And thank you for listening. If you have the chance, please rate and review this podcast wherever it is that you're getting it. I'm Tyler Alderson, and tomorrow for your classical break, we'll be listening to some Fauré. I'll see you then.